Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside.
Hey scrappers, so probably not who were you expecting. If you don't know me, my name is Virginia. I'm actually Tom's sister, and this week I'm going to be going through the weekly report here for iScrap. In addition to market news and information, I'm going to give you some product updates of what we're doing here at the iScrap app to help you make more money with your scrap metal, whether that's with the resources we have, the prices we provide, and other types of resources that you could utilize to help you with your scrapping. So before I get into some of the new things that we have here at iScrap, I did want to give you an overview of how the market's looking this week. And obviously, I won't be able to go into so much depth as Tom does because over here at the iScrap app, my role is the marketing director. So I am in the thick of things of getting the products updated, getting our apps updated, our website refreshed. So there's a lot of things in the background that I'm typically doing. So I'm not typically in the trenches of what's going on with the scrap metal market and the economy, but I do have some news this week to share with you, and wanted to give you an update on how things are looking. So from a copper perspective, we did see, as we've been seeing this trend, is copper is kind of leveling off. There's some slight up downs. There's not really too much movement in the market. This has kind of been like a broken record for what we've been dealing with for the last couple months. And this week isn't any different. So copper is, I think right now trading around $3.65 per pound. But when it comes to what you're going to be getting at your scrapyard, we've seen some updates here for the iScrap app, and we've seen anywhere for bare bright wire hovering between $2.90 and $3 per pound for bare bright copper wire at scrapyard. So that's typically the higher range that you're going to be seeing is around $3 per pound for your bare bright wire. For regular copper tubing, we're looking at anywhere from $2.70 to $2.80 per pound. Right now, you can see the 30-day average has dropped about 6.5% since, with some of the reported prices that we have here. And then number one flashing copper and number one tubing is typically around the same price, but you can see flashing here is around $2.85. So that's this current average. Now, as we're looking at these averages here on the iScrap app, I do want to bring up something that's really important that I thought it would be important to mention and just kind of remind everybody is that you have the ability to report your scrap prices right on the iScrap app. So whether you have our free iOS or iPhone app or a free Android app, you can report prices directly through the app, and you can actually report quite a few prices at the same time. So if you sold maybe 2 to 3 different types of materials at once, you could report each and every material. We have over 200 materials listed on the iScrap app, so you should be able to find the one that you're looking for. And then if you're not using our free app, you could also report your prices through our mobile website and our regular website at icrapapp.com. So what we do is I'm trying to encourage more people to report their prices on the iScrap app. What we're able to do here at iScrap is continue to build more tools that can deliver more data and insights for you. What our goal long-term here at iScrap is to be able to give you better predictions on how the market is looking, where we think it's going, where it's been in the past. And with your help by reporting prices through the iScrap app or our website, it really allows us to continue to build new features and new abilities for you to consume, the different types of prices that are in the industry. So if you have some time, I think I've timed myself. It probably takes about 20 to 30 seconds to insert one price through the iScrap app. No login required. It's very easy to do. And you can simply search for whatever material that you're looking to report on. So check that out. But also, if you're not necessarily selling at this time, but you're trying to figure out if you should sell, definitely check out our price list. We have dozens, like I said, over 200 prices listed on the iScrap app. So it's a really great tool for scrappers out there, whether you're selling weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly, or maybe only a couple times a year. The iScrap app is a great tool to be able to find that information. So if we jump into the bare bright copper wire prices, this week we have seen some that have been reported hovering around that $3 per pound range, which is what I mentioned earlier. But you can also see, depending on the locations, there's some other areas that are closer to 280 per pound. So I wouldn't, be surprised if you're going to get paid around 280 to $3 per pound for Bear Bright. Again, this is a very high price commodity when it comes to common metals. So if a scrapyard is paying on the higher side, they're obviously a very aggressive scrapyard. So it's good to kind of keep that in mind. So if you're seeing prices in your area that are reported maybe a little bit lower than the average, it might be worth calling up a couple different scrapyards in the area and see who's willing to pay a little bit more. But on the copper news side of things, some things that I did read this week is that we have some news out of China that we have some improvements with their copper imports. So for years now, since the pandemic, the copper prices have really been dictated a lot by China's actions, just because of the global consumption and the global impact that their economy has. What we did see is there's some new data in the last month and a half, especially in the month of October, that copper imports in China actually rose about 23% compared to the previous October. So that means this October in 2023, China did see a 23% increase in how much they imported copper into the country compared to October of 2022. So that's something to keep in mind. So that is something that we could kind of take a little bit of insight from, that they're looking for more consumption. They're looking for a solid resource and demand for copper being imported into the country. So that's something to keep in mind. But again, even though that number is a great, impressive number, 23% compared to year over year, we have to also just look at what the numbers are showing us. Copper is not really moving. It's still kind of in this weird phase that we're not really seeing any drastic movements up or down. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're looking to hold your copper right now, I don't see why not, because maybe you are waiting for that big jolt. But like Thomas said in the past, we don't really see that happening anytime soon. So if you have the space and the ability to hold on to your copper, you're more than welcome to. But while at the same time you might be looking for a big spike, there might be a big drop coming in the same direction. Now, another piece of news that did come out in the last week is that the U.S. Fed are deciding not to change any interest rates currently, and a lot of people are taking this signal as they don't expect any other interest rate hikes, which is kind of telling them that the economy is cooling down and that things are starting to settle, and the dust is starting to settle as well. That could be a good sign for the market overall, because perhaps we did avoid something bigger, but we still do think that there's something looming where the market corrections might be coming down the pipeline. So that's something to just keep in mind. And bringing that back to what we see from the copper side of things, it might be something that keeps copper kind of at bay and kind of keep it exactly where it is right now. So that's some of the news that we have here going on this week in scrap. And like I said, you're not going to get an in-depth take like Tom does every week. I'll do my best to kind of keep you informed. But what I would recommend is definitely checking out some of the more common materials that are reported on the iScrap app, so you can see what other people, whether it's in your area or around the country, are reporting their scrap prices as. And again, reminder, those are prices that people are actually getting paid at scrap yards. Now, something that I like to always remind people about is that while scrap yards are paying that, it really depends on where you are, because if you're in the middle of the country, whether it's Canada or the US, it's a much longer journey to take material from the middle of a country and bring it to the ports on whether the east or west coast or other ports around the area. So that whole journey of copper or steel or any other type of material having to be shipped across a country before it's able to be shipped internationally for processing, that's a big price cut factor. So when it comes to prices and how prices are dictated, you really have to look at where you're located, how is the the local economy set up in terms of how accessible are some local ports. So when you're looking at prices, while you might see some prices, let's say on the East Coast around New York City, much higher than where you live in Iowa, that's going to be something that you're naturally going to see anyway. Pricing in the middle of the country is always going to have a big discrepancy when it comes to other areas. So that's just something to keep in mind. But it is worth noting that when you are looking at 30-day averages, because we have a wider selection of all these different regions reporting scrap prices, it really gives you a good idea of how things are moving. And if I pull up the chart here for, let's go back here for scrap prices, you could see that the 30-day average swings here, the percentage swings, kind of give you a better picture as to what you should expect, because right now copper, number one copper tubing and number one copper wire, which are the mainstays of copper pricing, you could see have seen a bit of a dip in the last 30 days. So that's something to keep in mind, and it kind of matches with the number two copper tubing as well, and what prices are we're seeing reported on the iScrap side of things. So now if I open up over to ferrous metals, and just a reminder as I'm doing this, this feature here for filters, you can do this both on the iScrap website, which I'm showing you now, whether you're on a mobile device or a desktop. And you could also do this through the app as well. We have the ability, so you could switch lists to show what materials you're more interested in drilling down the prices for. So if I switch over to ferrous materials here and we scroll down, you can see things are kind of, again, similar to what copper has been. We do see a little bit of a level off. One of the bigger materials that we do see reported quite often is light iron. And if I click through to light iron here, you can see there's actually a 0% 30-day change, kind of following that same exact notion of what copper is doing. So copper's trend has been up and down slightly, but kind of staying on the same benchmark here. We see the same with light iron. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking to get rid of your steel. But as a reminder, as Tom always says, we do recommend when it comes to steel and iron, it's big, it's heavy. If you load it in your truck once, don't unload it to hold it and then load it again to go sell it. We always recommend for these bigger, heavier materials, always just sell them as soon as you load them the first time in your truck. So if you're picking them up at a job site and you're, on your way back to your house, maybe you're going to be storing them in your warehouse or something, or maybe your garage. Instead of making that trip back to make it back out again in a later time, just go right to the scrapyard, sell it. It's easier to do it. It's a smarter way to work. That's just something that we've always kind of promoted, because once you have it loaded, why do the work twice to load a material that you're really not making too much money on, especially when it comes to ferrous metals. Some other updates that I wanted to kind of fill everybody in on over here at the iScrap app is we have some new product reviews coming up soon. So with the winter months, obviously dressing warm is going to be important, but also you might want to look at what you're wearing on your feet. One thing that I always live by is that you never cheap out on your boots or shoes and your mattress, because at some point in your life, you're in either one of them. You're either in your shoes or in your bed. So don't cheap out on the mattress or the shoes. So we do have a couple of reviews coming up, including a couple of Timberland boots that we want to review, that actually our guys here in the yard at Rockaway Recycling, our sister company, are wearing themselves. They're wearing them for a couple months, letting us know how they're working out, what they do and don't like about them. So we do have those reviews coming out soon. So stay tuned for that. We did just have a new blog release on trailer accessories. So we took a couple polls of some scrappers and the scrappers that use perhaps trailers to hook up to their cars or trucks when they're hauling material. And we have a list of some of our favorite trailer accessories that as a scrapper you should look into. The link is going to be below this video, so be sure to check that out if you're interested in learning what trailer accessories scrappers recommend and what they like about them. And that way you could perhaps, if you have your own trailer, enhance your trailer to be a better workhorse for you. We do have something new that if you're not already part of our Facebook group, again, link is below this video. We have a Facebook group of over, I believe, 13 or 14,000 scrappers at this point. So be sure to head over to Facebook and join that. But we do have something new happening there where we're every month going to be selecting one of our favorite scrapping photos from you as a scrapper, and we're going to be featuring it on our cover photo. So the prizes also include some really cool merch here from iScrap, so check that out. We do have a link for that post and the Facebook group below this video, so be sure to check it out. We do have some updates. Actually, before I jumped on this live stream, I was messaging our developer team. We actually have a new update coming out for the Android and iPhone app, so be sure to check that out. We will definitely be sure to send out an email and notifications about updating your app. For the app, we have some new features that we're adding, but really what we're doing is we're kind of enhancing and cleaning up some of the discrepancies we may have had on our price list. So one of the cool features that I really like that we are releasing in this new update is that we actually changed the chart colors of the prices on the iScrap app. So if I pull up, let's pull up the iScrap app here. This is the website. You can see this chart is green because there hasn't been any movement. But if I head back to the price list here, you'll see that there's some red colors here. So this heavy melting steel, if I click through to it, this chart is red to show you that it's in the negative. That's something that we added as a feature to the iScrap app itself. So your app is now going to reflect the movement in prices for any price charts that you're checking out on the app when viewing it. So that's a cool update coming out soon. So be sure to turn your automatic updates on for your app, or be sure to check out the App Store if you haven't already downloaded it. Something else that we have coming out this week that's really cool. So if you have been watching the last few weeks, we had our auto series that we partnered up with Roxbury Auto to shoot how to scrap different parts of a hybrid vehicle. So we have part 2 coming out this Sunday, which is the 12th of November. It's going to be released, and we have the premiere going out at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday to show you part 2. So be sure to tune in for that. We have a total of 6 different parts for that auto series, and every week we're going to be releasing a new one. So be sure to subscribe here on YouTube so that way you don't miss it. And speaking of this weekend, I just want to take a moment and thank those who are veterans for your service. We do have Veterans Day coming up here in the U.S. on the 11th, and I just want to take a moment to thank those that have served and sacrificed their lives. We appreciate you, and we appreciate your families for making that sacrifice for the country, that we live in here in the United States. So thank you for your time and your dedication. We really appreciate that. So just want to take a moment to send out our well wishes to those veterans that are out there. Another thing that we have coming up that has been coming quite frequently, both in the Facebook group that we're heading out, and also the scrap metal subreddit over on Reddit. We have seen a lot of people asking questions about, like, hey, what is this type of material? They might post a photo of whatever it is, or hey, I got this thing. Maybe it's some type of machine or some type of accessory. They're not really sure how they could scrap it, how they can kind of dissect it. One thing that I wanted to remind everybody about is that if you head over to the iScrap app or on your app itself, whether you go to iScrap Online or the app, we do have a really handy resource feature where you can actually click on the materials and learn a little bit more about them. So if I pull up the price list here that I have here, the price page, I should say, yeah, this is all well and good because it's showing you prices. But if you actually scroll down, you can see we have this resource section on the left-hand side of what heavy melting steel is, where you can find in a little bit more information about it. We have some pictures here as well, and then some scrap materials we actually have videos for as well. So be sure to head over to the iScrap website or the app itself, and you can always find out a little bit more about what materials are and how to make money from them. We've taken time to go through every single one of the materials we have listed, and we have some educational videos as well. So if I show you here, this is bare bright copper wire. If you scroll down, we have a lot of information of where you can find the different types of wire. Then we have a video, and we have some other pictures here too to help you identify it. So perhaps you pick something up and you know it's aluminum, but you're not really sure what kind of grade of aluminum it is. You could head over to the iScrap app and do a quick search by heading over to the metals guide here, and you could just type in aluminum, and you can see what comes up here, and you can see various types of pictures that are attached and different grades that we have descriptions of. So if you open up, 6061, let's say, which for the most part, you're going to have to use a scrapyard's analyzer to be able to see what kind of grade, if it's a 6061. But we do have some information here on how to tell if it's 60, 61, and just learning a little bit more about each of the materials. So that's just a reminder that I wanted to share with you guys this week, that not only are we sharing the different prices, but we have kind of a profile in all these different scrap metals that you might be coming across, whether you're a side hustler or a full-time scrapper. It's a great resource that you can access right through our app as well. So that's just something that we wanted to remind everybody about. A couple other things that we have here is we have been seeing quite a few people in our Facebook group encouraging other people to cut freon lines or burn copper wire to get the insulation off. These are big no-nos. I mean, we here at the iScrap app absolutely never, ever, ever encourage you to cut the freon lines from any type of refrigerant systems, whether it's an air conditioner or a refrigerator. And we definitely say not to burn any copper wires and the insulation off. Not only is it an environmental problem and it hurts the environment, which we're here to be able to protect it as much as possible, but it's actually really bad from the sense of, especially burning copper wires, that some scrapyards will actually downgrade your material significantly. Sometimes what happens with burning copper wire is that the insulation actually ends up getting burnt onto the copper wire itself. And in that case, typically what a scrapyard will do is they'll actually downgrade you even below the price of an insulated wire, because it's really tarnished and it can't really be processed. So once wire is taken from your scrapyard, maybe it's taken to a bigger scrapyard, or maybe it's taken to a bigger facility for processing. There's a number of different processes that it goes through to chop up the different types of insulated wire. So when and I've actually seen some of these machines at work with some of the conferences we've had over the years that we've attended. But these machines, basically, you could say that they kind of like grind everything up. And then what happens at that point is there's different air guns that basically like send puffs of air along the conveyor belt to shoo away the lighter materials. So if you have insulated wire, your lighter materials are going to be the insulation itself, as opposed to the pieces of copper wire after it's all been grinded up together. So when those puffs of air are blowing off the pieces of plastic and insulation from the copper wire and kind of leaving the majority of the wire on that conveyor belt, that wire is then, or I'm sorry, the copper is then processed and usually melted down into the big, vats that you may have seen pictures of that have hundreds of gallons of melted copper inside. But if the material that you're burning is actually sticking to the copper wire, those puffs of air are never actually going to move that material, because the insulation is now burned onto the heavier pieces of copper, which then mean when the material gets put into those vats to melt down into copper, the copper itself is going to have more sludge, it's called, at the top of that melt, and it's going to be considered a pollution. So going back all the way to where your scrapyard is buying that material, when they see that the material has the insulation burned on top of it, they're immediately going to be docked by the other scrapyard that's buying it from them, or from the processor that they're selling it to as well. So what happens at that point is a scrapyard has no other choice than to slash their prices for that type of burnt wire, because they're automatically going to get docked for it by whoever they're selling it to. So that's something to keep in mind. Not only is it burning the wire bad for the environment, it's really bad for your wallet too, because there's a lot of scrapyards that will dock your price for that. And you might even see a significantly lower price paid for that material when you go to sell it compared to an insulated copper wire price. So just keep that in mind. That's something that's important that we wanted to kind of address, that we've seen people talking about a little bit. We do have some, like I mentioned, we do have that new contest happening to send us pictures of your scrapping adventures. We are looking to make sure that whatever pictures and loads that you are sending us, they have to be safe, they have to be secure. Don't be silly and show us materials that are pouring out of your trailer or out of the back of your pickup truck that deem to be unsafe. We want to make sure that the materials that you're showing and sharing with us through the contest are packed and basically transported safely. So that's something to keep in mind. We do have some new articles coming out, like I mentioned, with product reviews. We did just release the one for trailer accessories. So again, if you need some help for tying down those materials, we do have some good accessories for you to check out. And all the links for everything that I've mentioned below are going to be below. And if you have any other questions, feel free to comment your questions. Myself and my teammate Dominic is going to be checking out the different comments over the next week. And big shout out to Dominic for the one that's typically answering your comments or questions here on YouTube. So thanks for watching this week. If you have any other questions, feel free to let us know. Be sure to download the iScrap app. It is completely free. And you could also use our website at icrapapp.com. And until next time, I will talk to you later. And Tom will be back next week. And in honor of Tom being absent this week, I'm going to say, scrap you later.
Thanks for watching our video. For $2.99 a month, by becoming a member, you can get access to early videos, member-only videos, merchandise discounts from our store, and priority comments that we answer before answering any other scrappers. Click the link below to learn more. Until next time, scrap you later.